You're easy to replace, don't forget that. Those words cut deep, like someone swung a sledgehammer straight into my chest. I'm Marco, I'm 29 years old, been working construction with Cresswell Electric out in Phoenix, and at that point I'd been with Jessica for 3 years. We were sitting in the kitchen that night, our little apartment off Van Buren, when she casually scrolled through text messages from her ex, Tyler. I just asked her a simple question. Why does he keep texting you about unfinished business? Her answer didn't just hurt, it felt cold, calculated. She didn't even bother glancing up from her phone when she delivered it. I remember trying to keep my voice calm. You're right, I told her, I should remember that. And I did. Something inside me shifted then, not quite rage but something sharper, like suddenly seeing clearly through a fog I hadn't realized was there. Jessica had always had this way of making me feel small, but this felt like a slap I should have seen coming months ago. She laughed, thumbs flying across the screen. Good, now quit being so paranoid about Tyler, he's just a friend. I watched her texting him back, her fingers dancing like I didn't exist in the room. And I wasn't allowed to see those messages, of course. The apartment felt smaller somehow, like the walls were closing in. 3 years of walking on eggshells. 3 years of being corrected, how I dressed, how I spoke to her friends, how I held my damn fork at dinner. 3 years of hearing how lucky I was that she put up with me. I'm going for a drive, I said, already reaching for my keys. Whatever, she muttered, grab some milk while you're out. I stepped out, shut the door behind me and just sat in my truck for a while, engine off, hands on the wheel, mind racing. I found myself thinking about Victoria, Jessica's cousin. At family get-togethers, whenever Jessica made one of her signature cutting remarks, I'd catch Victoria's eyes across the room. She'd shake her head slightly, like she was apologizing on Jessica's behalf even though none of this was her fault. One time at Jessica's birthday party, Victoria had quietly pulled me aside. You don't deserve how she talks to you, she'd whispered, someone ought to tell you that. I'd brushed it off back then, figured it was just family trying to stay civil. But sitting in that truck I realized something. Victoria was the only person in Jessica's world who'd ever treated me like I actually mattered. My phone buzzed, a text from Jessica. And get the organic milk, not the cheap kind. I stared at that message for a good minute, then deleted it, didn't even bother replying. Instead of heading to the grocery store, I drove to the hardware place down the road, not because I needed anything, just because I could. When I finally came back a couple hours later, Jessica was fast asleep. I stood in the doorway and just looked at her. And for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel anything. Not love, not frustration, not even guilt over Tyler's texts. Just this quiet emptiness where 3 years of trying to be good enough used to live. I went into the kitchen, grabbed a pen and wrote down Victoria's number on the back of an old receipt. I'd seen it months ago in Jessica's phone, back when I still cared about being involved in her family's plans. Tomorrow, I told myself I'd use it. Jessica and I met at some bar in Scottsdale when I was 26. She was finishing her marketing degree, smart, sharp, full of confidence. That attitude impressed me back then. At the time, I was 2 years into the job at Cresswell Electric, finally pulling in decent money after struggling through my early 20s. She chased me hard in those first few weeks. Showed up at job sites with coffee, texted me constantly, made me feel like I was something special. Looking back now, it feels different, like she wasn't falling for me, she was collecting me. The changes came slowly at first. She didn't like my work buddies, said they were too rough, too unpolished. Started buying me clothes she liked, told me mine made her embarrassed to be seen with me. Her parents, Robert and Patricia, owned 3 furniture stores in Phoenix. They'd ask me what I did, and when I said electrical work, they'd nod politely, then move on like I'd mentioned landscaping or dog walking. Jessica never once stood up for me. She'd even laugh when her dad made jokes about blue-collar wisdom or when her mom asked if I'd ever consider doing something more professional. But Victoria was different. She was 27, taught second grade out in Tempe, and she actually asked about my work like it mattered. When I explained how we were rewiring the old courthouse downtown, she really listened. When Jessica's dad made another snide remark about electricians, Victoria would shift the topic gracefully, like she wanted to spare me from more of it. Marco fixed my garbage disposal last month, Victoria announced at Easter dinner. Saved me $300 and did a cleaner job than any repair service could have. Jessica glanced over at her with that tight smile of hers. He likes playing with tools, she said, like it was some cute little hobby. He likes helping people, Victoria corrected softly. I looked across the table and caught her eye. She gave me this warm smile that settled somewhere deep in my chest. And it wasn't just appreciation I felt, it was something I hadn't felt in a while. Looking back, the signs with Jessica had been piling up for months. She started going out more girls' nights, coworkers' birthdays, random events, but I was never invited. Whenever I asked why, she'd shrug and say, "You just wouldn't fit in." Little things turned into daily criticism. How I loaded the dishwasher, how I drove, even the way I said certain words. Then Tyler came back into the picture 6 months ago. He started texting her again, and the minute I brought it up, her defenses flew up. "He's going through a divorce," she said. "I'm just being there for him." But suddenly her phone was always face down. She started taking calls in the bathroom, and I'd hear things like, "Tyler actually listens to me. He values my perspective." The message behind that, clear as day: "Unlike you." The night she told me I was easily replaceable, it all clicked. She'd been soft launching my exit for months. The following morning, Jessica left for work early, didn't even say goodbye. For the first time in 2 years, I called in sick to Cresswell Electric and just sat there at the kitchen table, staring at the slip of paper with Victoria's number on it. I felt ridiculous. I mean, seriously, was I really about to call my fiancé's cousin just because my feelings were hurt? Sounded pathetic, even to me. But Victoria was the only one who'd ever told me I didn't deserve how Jessica treated me. Maybe she was just being nice, but still, no one else had ever said it. Not once in 3 years did anyone suggest I might deserve more. Before I could second-guess myself, I hit dial. "Marco," her voice sounded surprised. "Is everything okay?" "I need to ask you something," I said, "but I need you to be honest with me." There was a pause on the line, then she replied, "Okay. Do you think Jessica loves me?" The silence that followed dragged on so long I thought maybe she'd hung up. But finally she said, "Can we talk in person? This isn't a conversation for the phone." We met later that day at a coffee shop in Chandler, right between where we both worked. Victoria showed up wearing this soft yellow sundress. She looked nervous, but she smiled when she saw me. She sat down across from me, folded her hands neatly on the table, and looked me in the eyes. "She told me what she said to you," Victoria began, "about being replaceable." My stomach dropped. "She told you?" "She was laughing about it," Victoria said. "Told me you didn't even fight back, just took it." Her voice was low, serious. "Marco, that's not okay. People who love each other don't talk like that." I felt something inside me give way, like a dam cracking open. "I've been wondering if maybe I'm just too sensitive or maybe going crazy," I admitted. "You're not crazy." She reached across the table and placed her hand gently over mine. "Jessica's always been cruel. Even when we were kids, she'd say awful things, then make you feel like you were the problem for being hurt." "Why didn't anyone ever call her out?" I asked. "Because she's good at making people think they deserve it," Victoria said. Her eyes lit up, not with sympathy but with anger, the real kind. "But you don't, Marco. You're thoughtful, you work hard, you fix things for people without being asked, you remember what kind of coffee I like. You actually listen when I talk about my students." She squeezed my hand gently. "Jessica doesn't see any of that." I stared down at our hands. Hers was soft and warm, nothing like Jessica's cold detachment. "I've been thinking about leaving," I said quietly. "You should," Victoria answered without hesitation. "Honestly, you should have left a long time ago." Something shifted between us right then, like the air changed. Victoria slowly pulled her hand back and looked down, blushing. "I'm sorry," she said. "I shouldn't have done that." "Don't apologize," I told her. And then I really looked at her face, her expression, and realized I'd been so wrapped up in loyalty to Jessica that I hadn't noticed the one person who actually saw me. "Can I ask you one more thing?" I said. She nodded. "Would you have dinner with me, not as family, just the two of us?" Victoria smiled, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I could finally breathe again. That evening, I stepped back into our apartment feeling different. Jessica was on the couch, phone pressed to her ear, laughing at something, probably something Tyler said. As soon as she noticed me, she quickly ended the call. "I've gotta go," she said. "Marco's home." Then she hung up and looked right at me, waiting. "Where's the milk?" Jessica asked the moment I walked in. "I forgot it." Her face clouded immediately. "I specifically asked you to grab it." "We need to talk," I said, cutting her off. She blinked, caught off guard. She wasn't used to me interrupting her. "Talk about what?" she asked. "Tyler." "About him, yeah, about how you treat me, about us." She carefully set her phone down and leaned back, arms folded. "Oh, this should be fun. Let me guess, you've spent the whole day brooding over last night and now you want to have some big dramatic relationship talk." "I want you to stop talking to Tyler," I said calmly. Jessica burst out laughing, actually laughed. "Excuse me." "I'm not okay with it," I said. "All the texts, the late-night calls, it's not appropriate for someone who's engaged. Tyler's my friend Marco. I'm not cutting him off just because you're feeling insecure." "It's not insecurity." "It is insecurity," she snapped, standing up and crossing her arms again. "This is exactly what I'm talking about. You're constantly threatened by everyone around me. Tyler's got a successful law practice. He drives a BMW. He owns a house in Scottsdale. Of course you're uncomfortable." Her words hit like darts, sharp, deliberate, aimed to wound. But this time, instead of shame or anger, something else settled over me: clarity. "You're right," I said. "I am uncomfortable, but not because of his house or car." "Then why?" she challenged. "Because my fiancé is emotionally cheating on me and acting like I'm crazy for noticing it." Jessica's face turned to stone. "Emotionally cheating? Come on, Marco, that's ridiculous." "Is it?" I asked. "When's the last time you laughed at anything I said? When's the last time you answered one of my calls in front of other people? When's the last time you stood up for me, even once?" "I don't need to defend you." "Yes, you do." My voice came out louder than I expected. "That's what people do when they love each other. They protect each other. They don't tell them they're easily replaceable." Jessica stared at me for a long beat. Then she smiled, a cold, detached kind of smile I'd never seen on her before. "You really want to know the truth, Marco?" she said. "Tyler asked me to move in with him. His divorce is almost final and he wants me there when it's done. I told him I was engaged, but honestly, I'm starting to think that was a mistake." Those words should have crushed me. 6 months ago they probably would have. But now I just felt relieved. "So you are cheating?" "I'm keeping my options open," she said, her voice like ice. "Which is exactly what someone should do when they're stuck with a man who will never be more than a basic electrician." "There's nothing wrong with being an electrician," I said quietly. "There's nothing wrong with it," she replied, "if mediocrity is enough for you, but I want more." Tyler wants more. He appreciates ambition, intelligence, drive, someone who doesn't spend his life fixing other people's messes for hourly pay. I just stood there, letting her words sink in. 3 years of subtle digs and little insults had all led to this, Jessica finally saying out loud what she really thought of me. "I'm staying at my brother's tonight," I said. "Good," she replied. "I'll call Tyler." I paused at the door, then turned back. "Oh, and by the way, Jessica, I had coffee with Victoria today." Something flickered in her eyes, a twitch of surprise she tried to hide. "Why?" she asked. "She thinks I deserve better than this." "Victoria doesn't know anything about relationships," she scoffed. "She's been single for 2 years. Maybe she's just been waiting for someone who treats her right." I didn't wait for a comeback. I walked out, down the stairs, and climbed into my truck. Once I was behind the wheel, I called Victoria. "How'd it go?" she asked softly. "Exactly like you said it would," I told her. "She chose Tyler." "I'm sorry, Marco." "Don't be," I said. "Honestly, I think this might be the best thing that's ever happened to me." My brother Danny lived out in Mesa in a small duplex with a cracked driveway and a working fridge full of beer. He opened the door, took one look at me, and grabbed 2 bottles without saying a word. "Jessica," he asked as we sat on the porch. I told him everything. Danny never liked Jessica, he'd told me that once years ago, but he stayed quiet because I seemed happy at the time. But now, as I talked, his face grew darker by the minute. "She's been lining this up for months," he said when I finished. "Dropping hints about Tyler, knocking you down every chance she got, making you feel like garbage so when she left you'd think you deserved it." "Why not just break up with me?" I asked. "Because she wanted a backup plan," he said flatly. "If it didn't work out with Tyler, she could still fall back on you. That's what people like her do, they don't let go until they've got something better lined up." Danny took a long drink of his beer and stared out at the street. "Marco," he said, "I've never said anything about your relationships before. I always figured it wasn't my place. But this woman, Jessica, she's poison." The word stuck with me all night. The next morning my phone buzzed. "Victoria, how are you doing?" I stared at the message for a second, then called her. No text could carry what I needed to say. "Can I see you today?" I asked. "There's something I need to tell you." We met at the same coffee shop as before. Victoria was already there when I arrived, sitting at our usual table looking uneasy. Before I could even sit down, she said, "Jessica called me last night." My heart sank. "She told me you're having some kind of emotional breakdown, that you accused her of cheating and stormed out." I shook my head. "Is that what she's saying now?" "She wants me to talk some sense into you," Victoria added, her voice careful, "to remind you how good you have it with her." There was more, I could see it in her expression. "She also said you were inappropriate with me yesterday, that you made her uncomfortable by calling me behind her back." I felt the trap closing in. Jessica was already trying to turn people against me, starting with the one person I trusted most. "Victoria," I said slowly, "I need to ask you something and I need you to trust me enough to be honest." She nodded. "Has Jessica always been like this, even when you were kids?" Victoria went quiet, really quiet. Then she said, "When Jessica was 15, she dated this boy named Kevin, sweet kid, played guitar, worked after school at his dad's auto shop, not flashy but he adored her." I watched her face as she spoke, something was tightening there. "Jessica spent months picking at him, his clothes, his car, his family, nothing was ever good enough. Then one day she shows up at a family barbecue with Chad Morrison, you know, the guy whose parents own half of Scottsdale." "What happened to Kevin?" I asked. "She dumped him over text. Next week everyone found out she'd been seeing Chad for months behind Kevin's back. She never denied it. My Aunt Patricia, Jessica's mom, was thrilled. She kept going on about how Jessica had upgraded. And just like that, the puzzle pieces clicked into place. This is her pattern," I said. "She finds someone loyal, keeps them around until she lines up something better and then drops them like they were nothing." Victoria nodded. "I've watched her do it 3 times now, and each time she gets a little crueler, a little colder." "Why didn't you warn me?" I asked. "I tried," she said. "Remember last Christmas when I said you looked tired? I was hoping you'd open up, but you just smiled and said you were working a lot of overtime." I did remember that, and I remembered how I brushed it off without even thinking. Victoria reached across the table again, gently. "I've been wanting to say something for 2 years," she said softly. "But what was I supposed to do, tell my cousin's fiancée she's a terrible person?" "You could have told me I deserved better," I whispered. "I did," she said, a little smile playing at her lips. "At Jessica's birthday party, remember, when I told you that you made the best cupcakes I'd ever had, that you were thoughtful and kind and way too good for this crowd?" I blinked. "You did." I just wasn't ready to hear it. Victoria looked at me for a long time. "Are you ready now?" "I'm ready for a lot of things," I said. The next week passed like slow motion. Jessica and I barely spoke. She stayed late at work or claimed to, and when she came home she'd head straight to the bedroom, shut the door and take her calls with Tyler in private. I slept on the couch, counting down the days until I could move out. But I wasn't alone anymore. Victoria and I talked every day. Coffee turned into lunch and lunch into long conversations in her car. She told me about her students, about her dream of becoming a principal someday. I told her about the old Phoenix Theater restoration I was working on, how satisfying it was to bring something broken and forgotten back to life. Jessica never asked about your work, Victoria said one afternoon. She said it was boring. It's not boring, she said, smiling. You light up when you talk about it. You should see your face when you explain how you figured out the original wiring system. Something was changing between us, something real. Not lust, not revenge. Respect, curiosity, laughter that didn't come at someone's expense. Victoria, I said, trying to find the right words, there's something I need to say. Okay. I'm falling for you. The words hung between us like a held breath. I know the timing is awful, I added, and I know it's complicated because of Jessica, but I need you to know. Victoria didn't speak right away. I thought maybe I'd just destroyed everything. But then slowly she said, I've had feelings for you since the first family dinner. Jessica introduced you as her boyfriend and I remember thinking she didn't deserve you. Why didn't you say anything? I asked. Because you were with her, because I thought you loved her, because I told myself I was just lonely and projecting. Victoria locked eyes with me, calm and direct. I wasn't lonely, I told her, I was just holding out for someone like you. Then came the big question. So what do we do about Jessica? We tell the truth, I said without hesitation. She's going to be furious, sure, but she made her decision the moment she picked Tyler over me. She'll probably twist it, make it sound like we cheated or had something going on behind her back. Victoria just nodded. Let her spin it, I added. The people who truly know us will see through the lies, and the ones who do, they don't really matter. Jessica's annual family reunion was coming up the next weekend. It was being hosted at Robert and Patricia's place out in Paradise Valley. Every year, that whole side of the family got together there to celebrate Patricia's birthday and trade the latest family gossip. Jessica had been talking about it for weeks. She was excited to show off the engagement ring and gush about wedding plans. She's going to expect you to be there with her, Victoria said gently. I looked at her and grinned. Actually, I've got something better in mind. Friday night, while Jessica was off playing house with Tyler, I packed up my things. Before I left, I placed the engagement ring right there on the kitchen counter next to a note I'd written. You were right, I am replaceable. I hope Tyler gives you what I couldn't. Saturday morning, I swung by to pick up Victoria. She stepped outside wearing a soft blue dress that brought out her eyes bright and clear like an early summer sky. When she smiled at me, I felt something I'd never had with Jessica, calm, not butterflies, not nerves, just peace. You nervous? She asked, glancing over as we drove toward Paradise Valley. Terrified, I admitted, but also kind of excited. She chuckled, Jessica's going to absolutely lose it. Good, I replied, maybe now she'll finally show people who she really is. My family's going to be floored, she said. Some of them, yeah, but I've got a feeling a few already saw this coming. We pulled into the driveway right on the dot, 2:00 p.m. I looked through the front window and saw Jessica in the living room, holding court like a queen. She was probably telling them all about her hotshot lawyer fiancé and the amazing future they had lined up. She had no clue her past was about to come crashing through the front door. You ready? Victoria asked, reaching for my hand. I squeezed hers back. Let's do this. Jessica saw us through the glass before we even made it to the porch. Her face shifted fast, confusion, then disbelief, and finally full-blown rage. By the time Patricia opened the door, Jessica was already pushing through relatives to get to us. What's going on here? She demanded, her eyes darting between Victoria and me. What are you doing here? Hello, Jessica, I said calmly. Victoria invited me. Invited you? You're my fiancé. Actually, I'm not, I replied, keeping my voice steady as the entire room turned to watch. Check your kitchen counter. Jessica's face went white. She pulled out her phone, likely to call someone back at the apartment. You left me for my cousin, she exclaimed, loud enough for everyone to hear. You cheated on me with my own family. I never cheated on anyone, I said, my voice cutting through the tension, unlike some people. Robert stepped forward looking confused. What's going on here? Jessica's been having an affair with Tyler Morrison for months, Victoria said clearly, without hesitation. She told Marco he was easily replaceable, so he left. That's not, Jessica started, but Victoria interrupted. Tyler's married, isn't he? Patricia's voice cut through the noise, sharp and unyielding. The room fell completely silent. Jessica looked around at her family, realizing she had completely lost control of the situation. His divorce will be final soon, she said defensively, trying to cover her tracks. So you've been seeing a married man while you were engaged to Marco? Uncle Thomas, Victoria's father, asked, his voice thick with disapproval. It's not like that, Jessica tried to explain, her voice wavering. It's exactly like that, Victoria replied, her tone unwavering. And this isn't the first time. Remember Kevin? Remember David from college? Jessica's eyes darted across the room, searching for any kind of support. But it wasn't coming. Her carefully crafted image of being the perfect fiancée, the good girl, was falling apart in front of everyone. At least Tyler has a future, Jessica said, desperation creeping into her voice. At least he's not just some electrician. The contempt in her words hung in the air, but I could see several family members exchange uncomfortable glances. Marco's a good man, Victoria's mother said quietly, her voice filled with genuine warmth. He's always been respectful and kind. He fixed our garage door last summer, Uncle Thomas added, and wouldn't take a dime for it. He's helped half the family with electrical problems, Patricia said, her disappointment evident as she glanced at her daughter. Jessica realized too late that she was trapped. Her family was seeing her for who she truly was. Within 6 months, the entire story came out. Tyler's wife discovered the texts, and Jessica became the cautionary tale of their social circle. Tyler lost his partnership at the law firm and half of his assets in the divorce. Jessica lost her job when the scandal hit her workplace. Apparently, having an affair with a married client was a breach of company policy. She moved back in with her parents and spent months trying to salvage whatever was left of her reputation. But Phoenix is that big a city and people talk. Jessica learned what it felt like to be easily replaceable when her friends dropped her, one by one. As for Victoria and me, we took our time. We dated properly, meeting each other's friends, building something real. A year later, I proposed at the same coffee shop where she had first told me I deserved better. She said yes before I even finished the question. We married 2 years after that reunion. Patricia cried at our wedding, but she assured us they were happy tears. Robert walked Victoria down the aisle and pulled me aside to tell me I was the son-in-law he'd always hoped for. Even Jessica showed up, bringing a new boyfriend she'd met online. She was polite but quiet, finally understanding that some bridges just can't be rebuilt. Danny was my best man. During his speech he said, "Sometimes the best thing that can happen to a man is losing something he thought he wanted, only so he can find what he actually needed." Victoria teaches 3rd grade now, and I opened my own electrical contracting business. We have a house in Chandler, complete with a workshop in the garage, and we're making plans for kids someday. Jessica was right about one thing: I was easily replaceable in her life. But she was completely wrong about what that meant. It didn't make me worthless, it made me free to find someone who saw my true worth. Sometimes the best revenge is just being happy.